Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalam ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man tabi'a sunnatahu ila yawmiddin. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Again, in our short weekly sessions on benefits from some of the selected hadith of the Arba'in and Nawawiyah, and we are discussing today hadith number 7. Indeed, the deen or the religion is nasiha, sincere advice. And Abu Raqayyah Tamim ibn Aws al-Dari radiallahu anhu, إن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال الدين نصيحة. الدين نصيحة. قال قلنا لمن؟ قال لله ولكتابه ولرسوله ولأئمة المسلمين وعامتهم. ورواه المسلم. On the authority of Abu Raqayyah Tamim ibn Aws al-Dari radiallahu anhu, that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, this deen, the religion, the way of life, Islam, is nasiha, advice and sincerity. We said to whom? He said to Allah and His book and His messenger and to the leaders of the Muslims and their common folk, related by Muslim. Now we'll start with the biography of the narrator of this hadith. His name was Abu Raqayyah Tamim ibn Aws al-Dari radiallahu anhu. May Allah be pleased with him. He embraced Islam in the 9th year after Hijrah. Before this he was a Christian. He participated in a number of battles with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was the first person to narrate stories in the mosque with Umar's permission, and 18 hadith are recorded on his authority. He died in the year 40 after Hijrah. So an explanation of the hadith. This is the only hadith narrated by Tamim al-Dari radiallahu anhu. And nasiha is a comprehensive word whose meaning implies the desire for all possible good for one being advised. And this word an-nasiha is most concise in speech, and there is no other single word in the Arabic language that completely and precisely explains the meaning. And just as it said regarding the word al-falah, success, that there is no other word in the Arabic language that more precisely and perfectly describes the good of both this world and the next, likewise this is the way of the word. And the meaning of his sallallahu alaihi wasallam statement that the deen is nasiha is that the main pillar of this religion is its straightness, and this straightness lies in the concept of nasiha. And this is similar to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam saying the Hajj is Arafah, meaning the main pillar of Hajj is the standing in the plain of Arafah. As for the detailed explanation of nasiha, then Al-Khattabi rahimahullah and others from amongst the ulama have said nasiha is to Allah refers to belief in Him and the negation of all shirk, and leaving heresy and disbelief in His attributes, rather describing Him with the perfect and complete attributes, all of them, and freeing Him from all deficiencies. And it further implies being firm upon His obedience and keeping away from sin, and loving for His sake and hating for His sake, and recognizing His favors and thanking Him for that, and having sincerity for Him in all our affairs, and supplicating to Him with all of His names and attributes that He has mentioned, and encouraging others upon that, and to have courteous behavior with people. And as for the nasiha, the advice to Allah's book, then this is by believing it to be the speech of Allah that was sent down as revelation, and there is no similarity between the speech of Allah and the speech of mankind, and that no one from amongst the creation is able to produce anything like it. And further glorification of this book and reciting it as and should be acted, and reciting it as it should be recited and act upon it, and fulfilling its rights, beautifying the recitation, and having khushu', humility and submissiveness while doing so, and establishing the correct pronunciation of its letters, and also defending the Quran from the false interpretations of the innovators, and having faith in all that is in it, and understanding its sciences and examples, and accepting all of its ayat, the ones that the meanings are hidden or not so apparent, and the ones that are clear, and making dua by it, by the dua we find in the Quran. As for the nasiha, the advice to his messenger, calling people and advising them to his messenger, this involves believing in Allah's messengership and having faith in all he came with, and obeying him in all that he ordered or forbade, and helping him in both his life and after his death, and having enmity with all those who have enmity with him, and having allegiance to all those who have allegiance with him, fulfilling his rights, honoring him, reviving his manner and his sunnah, and responding to his da'wah, spreading his sunnah and understanding its meaning and sciences, and calling towards it, and being eager to study, and showing respect when it is mentioned, and refraining from speaking about it without knowledge, and to be mixing among the people of sunnah, and to behave with the character taught by the Prophet ﷺ, and showing love towards the members of the Prophet ﷺ's household and his companions, and keeping away from innovation and from those who innovate. As for the nasiha to the leaders of the Muslims, then this involves helping them in the truth and obeying the leaders, and advising them with truth and reminding them with kindness and gentle words, and not rebelling against them, and gathering the hearts of the, and to make sure that to gather the hearts of the people to obey them and to pray behind them and to make supplications for them. And as for the nasiha to the common folk, then it involves guiding them towards that which will correct their affairs of both this life and the next, and helping them to do that. It involves protecting them from harm and helping them in times of need. It is ordering them with good and forbidding them from evil, and showing mercy and kindness towards them. It involves honoring and respecting the elders, showing kindness to the youngsters, supporting them with good advice, leaving and staying far away from cheating them or having jealousy of them, supporting them with good advice, and avoiding cheating them or having jealousy of them, and that one loves for them what he loves for himself, and one hates for them what he hates for himself, and protecting their wealth and honor, and that other than that from speech and action. It also involves encouraging them all upon that which has been mentioned above in the various types of nasiha, and Allah knows best. And those are the end of the words of Al-Khattabi and other similar ulama. So we can see here the importance. It's important to mention that not everybody can advise everybody in these categories directly. So those people we can advise, we advise them. Those we cannot advise, then there are people who have advisors to advise them, and this is their responsibility. It doesn't fall upon us. And it is also not the sunnah to do these kind of advices where you see people going onto Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and social media, and they start to criticize certain establishments or certain authorities or certain individuals. This is completely against the sunnah, and this is not the way it should be done. This is not the way it should be done. And there are many statements of the Salaf that they said, if I had one dua that I knew would be answered, I would make dua to Allah for our rulers. And even when it comes to everyday folk, if you're not qualified to forbid the evil, meaning you don't have the knowledge that is to advise somebody that you know, and you say to them this is haram, and they'll say prove it, and you don't know the verses or the teachings to prove to them that it is haram, then in this case you're not the suitable person to advise them. And again, there are certain certain bodies or certain establishments that have the role to do this role, and this is their responsibility to do that. So this is a very detailed subject on how one should give advice, but generally we should definitely give advice to people who we are close to, we have close relationship with, who we deal with on a daily basis. This is part of the religion, to advise people. So when you see one of your friends, your family members, your work colleagues, you don't just be quiet, you do your best to advise them to good, and advise them to stay away from that which is bad. This is a very important part of the religion, as we can see from this hadith. And giving nasiha is fard kifaya, meaning if there is a sufficient number of people who perform it, then the obligation is lifted from the community as a whole. And it is obligatory according to the ability of the individual. So if the individual is able to give that advice directly to the person, he does it. If he's not able, then he doesn't do it. And if he's able with his knowledge and capacity, he does so. And if he's able, he is at the status where he can advise another person of a certain status, he does so. If he's not, then this is not for him to do. And if enough people are doing this, then it doesn't require other people to do the advising, because there is already enough people doing so. And in the Arabic language, nasiha means purification or clarification. As it is said, I purified, nasahtu al-asal, I purified the honey. And it said it means other than that. So when you give this nasiha, it is as well to help to purify and to clarify and to make better and more pure and the person you're advising. And if sometimes if advice can do more harm than good, then in this case you don't advise. So as a general principle, we should advise those we have the ability to advise, those we're in our close circle, always starting with ourselves and our family and our close circle before we go outside to the general people. But definitely it is, if you have the knowledge and you have the ability, you should advise those who you interact with on a daily basis. To summarize, that one cannot worship Allah sincerely without being sincere to what He has revealed and to the people according to their station in life. Also, one has to respect and honor His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which is to respect and honor what he said, did, approved or recommended, and to love and to inform others of good and of the matters that we know about the deen. And that is the end of today's session, inshallah. Anything that I have said which is correct is from the blessings of Allah and His tawfiq. Anything I have said which is incorrect is a mistake of myself and from the shaitan. And until next time, inshallah, وصلى الله على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.